morning or good evening, depending where you are in the world. And I am posting this video for you today because I wanted to review Wicked for Good. Yes, I have seen it just a little bit early. And what I can say is I thought it was good. I think it was a solid movie. It is not perfect. Now, I should put a disclaimer that I have never seen the play. So my introduction really was part one that came out last year, and I saw that movie one time. And I didn't go goo goo gaga over it the way a lot of people did, but it doesn't mean that I think it's horrible. I don't think it's trash. I think it has some really great performances. Part two, there's really great performances, really great costuming, and there are some flaws, but we'll get into that. I want to talk about first the positives of this. So what's really interesting is Wicked, the story, has these two main leads. You have Glinda and you have Elphaba, who are played by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. I do think Ariana Grande had a much stronger performance in part one for me. And I think that's an unpopular opinion because I'm seeing a lot of praise for her, and she's getting Oscar buzz for part two, which is very interesting to me because I think Cynthia was a lot stronger for me in part two, while Ariana part one was really kind of like a revelation of sorts. But overall, I think they were both very good, and I think they both will be nominated again. Will they win? It's too early to tell. It's way too early. I took note of the costuming a lot more in this one. Cynthia Erivo, like the iconography of like the micro braid hair and then like the green skin and her black costume and the witch's hat. She just looks so good, and she's wearing black for most of this runtime in this movie because, you know, she has been villainized, and I think the costuming in this film does a really great job of also telling the story. For example, there's also this dress that Glinda wears. It is sort of like in the second half towards the end. It is kind of like a mix of bluish and pinks, because to me it kind of shows that she's in transition before she becomes Glinda the Good as the whole world knows her. And then I don't want to spoil the end, although if you've seen the play, you already know what I'm talking about. But the costuming continues to tell her story all the way to the end, which I thought that was a really nice touch. So I won't be surprised if they also get some costume love at the awards again. I really appreciate seeing some of the complexities and the insecurities and just a little bit more of the lore of the different characters, and that goes for Glinda. We kind of see what has shaped her since she was a little girl. She started out having all of these things and these friends, but she so deeply wanted something that she just doesn't have, and she wants to be magical. And because she doesn't have that innately, she has depended on the kind of optics of things and having certain people look to her. And that's been kind of like her lifelong journey and the things that she has to deal with in this movie. And then poor Elfie, and man, she is like kind of like a tragic character to me, because I realized while watching this, like anybody that she's ever loved has caused her a lot of hurt and pain throughout her life. And then by the end, it's more of like a bittersweet end for her, for me, in my opinion, because, you know, she realizes there's some changes that she can't cause, but then there's some other things that she'll have to sacrifice to cause a certain type of change. And that was just kind of like sad to me. So I do appreciate and really like Wicked for that complexity and that depth. And I also like to see some of the other types of characters in this that we kind of figure out just kind of how wicked they are and really not great. And it's like more people who Elphaba loves who are not really great to her. So I appreciate the kind of like variety of the cast of characters in this. Where some of the negatives come for me is I personally still think it's just a little bit too long. I do think part two is shorter than part one, but I just start getting a little bit antsy. And then there's times where I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna sing again instead of just like getting through the story. Like I'm ready to just for it to like keep on going. And I don't think I should be feeling that way in the musical, because songs should move the story forward. And there are some that definitely do. And then there's some that I feel like, I don't think I really needed this. For example, the wizard himself, played by Jeff Goldblum, gets some songs, and I felt like I could have done without those. I don't know if he has singing parts in the play, maybe he does, but I during those scenes, I'm just not as invested and as interested in the wizard. So I just felt like the moments where he sings, it just felt like a bit of a slog. Some of the CGI just still looks a little bit too CGI, but that's not unique to Wicked. I've said the same thing about other films this year or in 2025, and I guess it is just very hard and complex to make really great looking CGI, and some films are going to fall victim to that. So I just don't always love the way that it looks. I do think some things are a little bit confusing. I'm not sure what the time jump is. The movie's long, so they may have said it and I missed it, but I'm not sure how much time has passed between 1 and 2, because I just have questions about like, okay, well, how much time has passed so that people believe this lie about Elphaba, how she's wicked, and there's just like a lot of different moving parts. And then they bring in Dorothy, and then that whole story. I found myself, I can't think too deeply about Dorothy because I feel like if I do, it just will not make sense. And then there are the change of hearts for certain characters in this that I feel like happened pretty quickly, or they just didn't really have the time to develop enough for me. And I don't want to spoil who. I'm trying to be vague as much as I can for a play that's like, what, 20 plus years old. But there's a certain minds and hearts that are changed that I just felt unsatisfied. It made me go, wait, now you're turning around on this and then doing this. But a minute ago, you were willing to just, go with the status quo. So I just wasn't satisfied with that. But all in all, I thought Wicked for Good was a good movie, not a perfect film. I think it will get lots of awards love again. I don't know if it'll win because it's still so early. Like I said earlier, there's a lot more films that we need to watch for the Oscar season. But thank you guys so much for watching my review. I really appreciate it. If you like my content, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.